All right, great. All right, welcome. Thanks everyone for joining our webinar, Raise More, Click Less. We're so excited to host this webinar with our friends from Epiphany, and even more excited to see some old friends here and some new friends as well. In a minute, we'll dive into the main content of what we want to discuss today, but first we'll cover a bit of housekeeping and introduce ourselves. So after this webinar, we're hoping that you'll be able to streamline your post-end of year donor communications, understand how to automate the full document lifecycle directly within Salesforce, visualize a more efficient workflow using Salesforce Nonprofit Cloud and Epiphany tools, and most importantly, reclaim valuable time to focus on what matters most, building your donor relationships. So who are we? I'm Berkeley Baker. I am in our client success department here at Arkus. I've been here for 9 years. I'm very happy to have this conversation. As someone who spent many years working on the nonprofit side of things and being responsible for tax letters, donation acknowledgments, I really hope this conversation will be helpful to you all and hopefully provide some insight on a way to hopefully do things a lot better and a lot more efficient. Alongside me, we have Andrew Fretwell, our director of sales here at Arkus, who is also our reigning fantasy football champion until next season when I take it back. As well, we have Alexandra Mamalakis, Alliance Manager at Epiphany, who's also going to walk us through some Epiphany products today and give you a bit more insight on what they have to offer. Andrew?
Yeah, thank you, Berkeley. Thank you for that introduction, and I look forward to next year being the repeat Arcus Fantasy Football champion. But enough about me. Let's talk a little bit about Arcus. For those of you who are joining who might be new to Arcus, we are a summit level. That's the highest level implementation partner for nonprofits in the Salesforce ecosystem. We've been in this space for 15 years now. We just recently completed our 3,000th successful project, of which we are extremely proud. And you know, the too long didn't read version of the Arcus history is if a nonprofit has ever asked themselves, gee, I wonder if we could with Salesforce ... We at Arcus have probably implemented it like 4, 5, maybe 50 times, and could tell you why it's a great idea and we should hit the ground running, or maybe it's a little bit more complicated than it seems on the surface, and we should talk things through. And you know, might be the prudent approach to it. But either way, we truly sit at the intersection of the world's greatest tools with the world's greatest causes. And one of the great perks, personally, I think, for my role here as a director of sales and account manager here at Arcus, is the ability to share out phenomenal best practices, tools, and partners that are in this system that can really help amplify the mission of nonprofits and alleviate the struggles. And one of those is our friends here at Epiphany. So with that, I'm going to turn things over to Allie.
Thank you, Andrew, and thanks for the kind words about Epiphany. We could say the same about Arcus as well. So first of all, I do want to thank you for inviting us to be a part of this webinar today. And I also wanted to take a moment to thank all of you who are joining us today to join this webinar. So before we jump in, I want to give you a little bit of background on us at Epiphany. So we built the first app on the App Exchange about 20 years ago. And shortly after, we founded Epiphany to help other companies build their own apps on the App Exchange. We've helped companies like LinkedIn, Stripe, and DocuSign, and hundreds of other leading companies over the past 15 years build their apps. We are 42 people based out of Chicago, and we are Salesforce venture-backed. And we also are a Salesforce ISV partner and have 5 apps on the App Exchange currently today, and 1 app coming soon, which you'll all get to see a preview of in just a moment. So starting here on the left, we have file management solutions. Drive Connect is our Google Drive integration with Salesforce. Then we have Share Connect, our SharePoint integration with Salesforce. We have Merge Connect, our document generation solution, which essentially takes data from Salesforce and turns that into PDFs, documents, and PowerPoints. We have eSign Connect, which is our DocuSign integration with Salesforce that works with all our other apps. We have Parse Connect, a parsing tool that allows you to extract data from PDFs or images and create records inside of Salesforce using AI. And last but not least, the app that you're going to see a preview of today as well is Experience Connect, our Experience Cloud support for Google Drive and Share Connect. So next, I do want to share just a little bit more about our focus at Appiphony. So our focus is on building a suite of apps that helps you to manage and automate your document lifecycle across Salesforce. We've built a framework that our products use to communicate with one another called our Flex framework. It's our file linking exchange technology. So what that means is when more than one of our products is installed in your Salesforce org, each product is automatically aware and can work with one another seamlessly. So we've been really thoughtful about building best in class for each one of these document core use cases. And the idea that we've built these apps with is that they're a part of a broader collection. So they integrate and interact with each other in a really meaningful way. They share the same setup experience. And so once you become familiar with one of our apps, it'll be easy to configure the other. So today we're going to go through a scenario, a day in the life of a fundraiser that you'll hear Andrew speak about. And you'll notice that we're going to be touching on many of these apps as a part of that fundraiser's workflow.
Great, thank you, Allie. So it's early February. I'm sorry, it's early March now. I recall, so earlier in my career, the first 10 years of my career were in the nonprofit space here in New York, and a large portion of that work was in the fundraising world. And right around now, the end of winter, is when I would get really, really tired. And I think this graphic here that we've called Rundown Randy would really been Andrew Fretwell circa 2007 to circa 2016, because all of December as a fundraiser, I and every fundraiser out there, right, is like on the phone, on emails, texting, messaging, doing whatever you can to get all of your pledges fulfilled, get your gifts transacted, bring in all those funds, because this is end of year time, and no rest for the weary in December, right? So right up until December 31st, man, you are just getting out and processing and bringing in all these gifts. January 1, you take a breath, you go, man, that was exhausting. Take a couple weeks off, maybe start to catch your breath. Then February comes around, you start thinking like, okay, now let's start thinking strategically and really get ready for the new year. What we can do, what are new ways that we can bring in new donors, and you start putting the plan together. And then just around the end of February and then early March, something happens to disrupt that. You start getting the emails from your donors saying, hey, we're getting ready to file our taxes and we need documentation for the IRS for our gifts. Can you please provide? And the process to that can be not so simple. Let's take a look at some of the steps. Let's take a look at the steps involved in that when you're doing it manually. When you are manually doing this, well, first you need to run the report. Okay, easy enough, running a report. All the donors from the previous year. Okay, that's fine. You need to make sure you've got your acknowledgement letter template created. If it's not there, you have to create it. You need to validate it. You may need to update it. If your office has a new address, you need a new header. If this is being officially signed by a new executive, that needs to be updated. So there's some template stuff that has to get validated. But even more than the template being validated, the data has to be validated, right? You need to make sure you got the right name there. You need to make sure that you have an updated address. You need to make sure you've got the right amount in there, because oftentimes you have to ensure that the actual gift amount is for the full year. So you need a roll up for that, right? You can't just go to one donation. So that in itself can be a lot of work. Then you need to actually execute that mail merge, which can be, which is a certain amount of work if you want to email it, and then it's even more work if you want to move that into direct mail. And then even once you've done that, and that letter has gone out, that email has been sent, you're still not done. Because then what you have to do is you need to make sure that file gets saved somewhere. And where are you going to save it? Are you saving it in your CRM? Are you saving it in the shared folder? Are you saving it in both places? Are you saving it nowhere? That can be a little stressful. And either way, it's work, right? It's decisions you have to make. And then even once you've saved it, you need to make sure there's some visibility across the organization that actually the acknowledgement letter has been sent out. Because if the CEO gets a call from a major donor who says, hey, why didn't I get my tax acknowledgement letter? That CEO needs to know whether or not whether it's been sent out or not at all, right? And then finally, even more important than knowing if it got sent out, is actually knowing that it was received, right? Or that it was accessible to them, right? That kind of visibility is really, really important. And that is a lot of work to do. So in February, when you start getting the trickle, the reason, I would start feeling exhausted is like, okay, here comes a wave of work that's about to get in the way of all of my sort of first quarter of the year, dreaming the art of the possible stuff. I'm now weighed down, incredibly weighed down by all this manual work I need to do. But we have good news for Rundown Randy, which we will get to in a moment.
So that leads us to our poll question. How efficient is your acknowledgement process? Thinking of a scale from 1 to 5, with 5 being the highest. Got a quick poll here for you guys to fill out. Okay, we see some confidence. That's good. Safe space, so you can put whatever you need to put. No judgment, judgment-free zone. I love it. Great.
Thanks, Berkeley. So piggybacking off of what Andrew just shared, it sounds like Randy, the fundraiser, needs some tools to make his life a little bit easier. So I'm going to explain those tools before we hop into the demo. So today we're going to demo a nonprofit organization using Nonprofit Cloud and an Experience Cloud site built out by Arkus. We're going to be honing in on a donor record of a donor who has requested that we send him an acknowledgement letter. So Salesforce Nonprofit Cloud captures that donor information, and our goal today is to generate that acknowledgement letter from that donation. Next, we want to be able to store that document in his donor folder on his Salesforce record, and that donor folder is actually a SharePoint folder that was created using ShareConnect. And finally, we're going to expose that acknowledgement letter document to an Experience site so that your donor has access to the acknowledgement letter. So now we get to the what. I'd like to show you a demo of what Arkus created with Appiphony's products inside of Salesforce. Okay. So today I'm taking on the persona of Randall Johnson, a fundraiser within sales, a fundraiser at the Restore Foundation. And Randall Johnson just received a call from Thomas, one of his donors, who let him know that he'd like to file his taxes and he needs a copy of his acknowledgement letter. So as you can see, today I'm on Nonprofit Cloud, and this gives me the ability to see all of the information related to my donor in one place. I can take a look at the amount that Thomas donated last year, his preferred contact method, and also notice over here that there's a SharePoint links component. You'll see that a SharePoint folder has automatically already been created via Flow when Thomas's account was created. Okay, with one click, I'm going to go ahead and generate Thomas's donor letter. So with just this one click, a few things are happening at once. First, Merge Connect is pulling in his specific donation. So let's take a look at it. Okay, Merge Connect pulled in the donation amount of $10,000 and customized this acknowledgement letter for Thomas. Second, ShareConnect automatically stored that acknowledgement letter inside of Thomas's donor folder. And the really powerful part about this is that my colleagues at the Restore Foundation can access this file and folder from SharePoint, even if those nonprofit users are not living in Salesforce day to day. And lastly, Thomas needs this acknowledgement letter. So I'm going to go ahead and share this file with Experience Cloud. And I was able to do that using Experience Connect, which allows me to share files with my donors. All right, let's go ahead and send Thomas an email and let him know that his acknowledgement letter is ready to be viewed. So using the standard Salesforce email, I'm going to go ahead and grab my template and send this email over to Thomas. All right, so now let's switch hats. So Randall just sent the email to Thomas, and I'm going to switch hats and take on the persona of Thomas Caldwell, the donor. So Thomas just opened his email, right? And he just received an email from Randall saying that his letter is ready to view. So he is going to click into this, and it's going to pop him over to his Experience Cloud portal that Arkus built. So let's pop over to his Experience Cloud portal. All right, so he opens his Experience Cloud site that the Arkus team built for Restored donors. And one of the great things about this site is after he logs in, he's able to see all of the information related to his relationship with this nonprofit, right? So he can see it's all in one central place. He can see the donations he's made, as well as how much of an impact his donations have made on their goals. And if we look over at this files component, he also can see and share files back between him and the Restore Foundation. So let's take a look at the acknowledgement letter. And as you can see, Thomas is able to take that acknowledgement letter, download it, and move on with his day. So that was a really good experience for one donor, but me over at the Restore Foundation, I have to do that for many donors, not just one, right? So I'm going to take back on the persona of Randall Johnson, and let's wrap this up by doing it in bulk. So let's go back and see how easy it is to do the same thing in bulk. So I'm now taking back on the persona of Randall Johnson, the fundraiser at the Restore Foundation, and I want to get ahead of things. I made this easy for one donor, but I want to go generate my acknowledgement letters for my additional donors. So using the nonprofit cloud list view, I can see my donors from last year, and I'm going to click the Generate Donor Letter button. Okay, so now what's happening is Merge Connect is generating an individual acknowledgement letter for each of those donors, right? It's taking my acknowledgement letter template that I have built, and it's inserting their name, the amount that they have donated, and customizing those acknowledgement letters with Merge Connect. Secondly, Share Connect is grabbing that acknowledgement letter and putting that letter into each of those donors' SharePoint folder on their record. And lastly, using Experience Connect, all of these donor letters are automatically being shared onto their each donor's individual Experience Cloud site. So as soon as all these letters are generated, we can go take a look at what that looks like for my donors. All right. So let's dig into Teresa's account. And if I click into her acknowledgement letter, you'll be able to see this acknowledgement letter was customized with her name as well as with the amount that she donated. So as you can see, the entire document lifecycle from document creation to document storage and even to donor access just happened entirely within Salesforce. And you don't even need to be a Salesforce admin to build this. You just need the right tools and the right partner like Arkus to automate your own document workflows within Salesforce. And I'll pass it back over to you, Berkeley.
Thank you. I hope that was very helpful. I'm a proponent of seeing is believing, and I hope you guys could see how easily that process could be done. So we have another poll question. Now you've seen our demo. Where do you store your acknowledgement files currently? CRM, shared folder files. You don't store them. The file folder in the office that nobody goes through. That's my personal favorite. Long story. Or other. And before we move forward, I want to call out on the right-hand side of the screen, I should have mentioned this earlier, there's a question mark. If you guys have any questions, whether it's related to this demo, fundraising, Salesforce, Appiphony, whatever it may be, put your questions in there, because at the end of this, we will have time for a Q&A session, and we'd love to try to answer as many of those as possible. Great. Okay, Alex.
Thank you, Berkeley. Yeah, so now that you all saw the demo, let's take a quick look at the stack that Arkus put together with our products to build this demo. So first, we were using Salesforce Nonprofit Cloud, and then a Salesforce Experience Cloud site built out by Arkus. Next, we are SharePoint users, so therefore we used Appiphony's Share Connect product. And if you're thinking, okay, we're not SharePoint users, don't worry, we have a sister product to Share Connect called Drive Connect that has the same capabilities for Google Drive. And on top of that, we also use Merge Connect, the document generation solution, to generate the acknowledgement letter. And then that overarching product we use was Experience Connect. So that connected our apps to the Experience Cloud site, which allowed the Restore Foundation to be able to share their documents with all of their donors. And okay, if you're sitting here thinking like, wow, I really want to be able to achieve a similar outcome, your best bet is to take some time and sit down with Arkus and put together your own strategy at your nonprofit on how you can achieve this.
Great. And let's talk about that strategy. So you see this demo, you compare it to what you're doing now, and you're like, I kind of want that. Where do I start? And I think this diagram gives you a good idea of the different steps to take. So the first thing is you want to choose the right product. So you saw several different products. You could choose one, you could choose all, depending on if you have Experience Cloud or if you don't. If you just want document merge, you can choose Merge Connect, Share Connect, so on and so forth. So I think the first thing you'd have to do is kind of choose the right product for what it is that you're trying to do. So we always operate from a standpoint of what are we trying to accomplish? I would take that question and answer that first, and then work my way backwards to looking through the products and seeing which one of those would fit those needs. Get user buy-in. So once you decide on that, let's say you choose, I want all of them. A great thing to do is to get your super users involved, kind of go through the ropes with them, because it'll also help, because they may have perspective on it that you don't have, that might influence the decision, as well as getting their buy-in early will help you with user adoption, because if they're on board, then hopefully they get other people on board, and this becomes something that really changes the culture of your organization. And then choose a partner like Arkus. One thing that I'd like to tout about us is that we've sat in the seats that you guys have sat in or are sitting in. We've been development coordinators, we've been events people, database administrators, all other duties as assigned. And we bring that experience of understanding the things that you're trying to accomplish alongside the experience of being able to build it within Salesforce. So we can kind of help with the consulting piece, with troubleshooting, with thinking through scenarios you may not have even thought of, to help you really get the most out of these products and the most out of Salesforce. And very critically, identify a project lead. So there should be someone on your side who has the leadership or who's owning the process. And they don't necessarily have to be the person that has all the answers, but they should at least know who to go to get those answers. Having that singular point of contact to kind of see the situation from beginning to end will really be important. And we've seen our clients be successful in being able to identify those people. All right, so I hope you guys enjoyed the demo. Now it's time for our question and answer session. You can still put questions into the chat. Like I mentioned before, we're happy to answer anything that comes up. Let's see, what do we have in here? Okay, if I update a file in my shared folder, will that update in Salesforce?
Okay, so the question is, if you upload a file into SharePoint, will that be reflected in Salesforce? And the answer is yes. So essentially, Epiphany's Share Connect product, when you open your Salesforce, it's almost like it's a window into your SharePoint. And so if you are on the SharePoint end and you upload a file into a folder, and then you click into that via Share Connect from Salesforce, that change will be reflected in Salesforce.
Great. Question we have, what about cumulative giving, and does Merge Connect offer this option? I think I understand what this is saying. So are you saying, and feel free to go back into the chat, cumulative giving would be considered done by a roll-up. So if you have a roll-up that's rolling up total gifts, or whether it's total gifts this year or last year, in Nonprofit Cloud, if you create a donor processing engine for that value, then yes, you can merge that information into Merge Connect. Or if you were on the NPSP side and you had the typical roll-ups of like total gifts or total giving this year or last year, any of those fields can be used in Merge Connect to create the roll-up. So really, if you have the value, you have the field, if you're tracking it in Salesforce, you should be able to roll that information up in Merge Connect.
Yeah, Berkeley, you're exactly right, because the idea is it's taking data from Salesforce and putting that into a document. So if your data is in Salesforce, you can build your template where you can grab that data and put it inside of your PDF acknowledgement letter.
Great. What about letter batches?
So are we saying like doing that in bulk?
Yeah, I'm guessing that means you're saying the actual, yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. So there's a few different ways. So you saw me do almost like a mini bulk where we ran a screen flow where you can click a button and it generates all those letters in bulk. But we also have something called a scheduled flow option for if you have our DocGen solution as well as either Share Connect or Drive Connect, you could run it on a scheduled basis. So let's say, okay, at the end of every month, I want to generate the acknowledgement letters, or on December 31st, I want to run a batch and generate these acknowledgement letters. That is possible using our products, and either a scheduled flow or a screen flow as you just saw today.
Great. Is there a free trial if I want to test these products out?
Yes. So all Epiphany products offer a 14-day free trial. And there's also a trial in a sandbox production too.
Great. Does Merge Connect can interact with custom objects or just with the contact page, and we have to do rollups for everything?
Yeah, so let's say if you have Nonprofit Cloud, you might have more custom objects. Merge Connect does work with both standard and custom objects. And you can choose, when you build your template, you get to choose which object you're launching that template off of. So the answer is yes, it works with both standard as well as custom objects.
Okay, for the acknowledgement letter, can you edit so when the letter is generated, you can exclude some gifts if needed?
Okay. So can you, like you might want to include some gifts that you're generating, but not the other gifts? Is that the question?
Yeah, I would want more information on this. Like I know that there are some people, so instead of having acknowledgement letter that says your total giving is this, some people will have a table where they have all the gifts listed in that table. Are you saying you want to pick and choose which things are in the table?
Yeah, I can advance in here, the product manager for Merge Connect and the other Epiphany products. I can jump in real quick. So the question was, can you edit when the letter is generated? Can you exclude some gifts if needed? So if you're using Share Connect and Merge Connect combined together, if the document ends up living inside of SharePoint, you can actually edit it as long as it's a Microsoft Word document. So that means you can go inside of your SharePoint drive essentially, and then be able to edit that document live and then save it automatically. So in that sense, yes, if you are saving the document as a PDF, you won't be able to edit it because it is a PDF. Those just aren't editable.
Thank you. Do these tools work with both NPSP and Nonprofit Cloud?
Yes. So Epiphany's tools work with Nonprofit Cloud as well as Nonprofit Success Package too.
Great. And I think That was all the questions that we had. If anybody has any fundraising or direct Salesforce questions right now, you can drop them into the chat. We have a couple minutes that we can answer those, or at least try our best to answer them. Going once, going twice, like an auction. Great. If not, I want to thank you. Thanks everybody for coming to our webinar today. Before you jump off, I just want to let you know, as soon as this the webinar ends, you'll be given a survey that you can fill out to let us know how this webinar was, if there are any other topics you'd love for us to discuss. And for every survey filled out, we will donate or plant 5 trees in your honor. We're very delighted to have you guys attend. If you have any questions or want to follow up, or you want to get these things implemented, our information is in the chat where you can have our email addresses to reach out to us. We're more than happy to have a conversation. And once again, I want to thank Alex and Appiphony for joining us for this webinar. I really hope this is helpful, and I'd be very interested to see next year for your tax letters if anybody takes us up on this offer and does it this way. So thanks again. We look forward to seeing you guys on our next webinar. Take care.